50% difference. Some please and thank yous, open up and holding the doors, just a few things that you do, attentiveness and things like that, unfortunately will distance you from the rest of the crowd, right? I wish I could tell you it has to be 50% different. So sometimes it's just these subtle things. You go in with an adult, well, you're all adults, but you go in with somebody that's my age, so like an old adult, and you all of a sudden do something tangible, not making attention to it. Believe it or not, they'll go talk about it later. I was just this guy for 30 minutes, and he actually didn't even have his phone out, right? I mean, that one, I hate to say that, you will be weird in a good way. So, and I think that would be more impact than if I did it, right? So just something, if you ever want to distinguish yourself. Other thoughts on film? We meet monthly in roundtables in our organization. That's kind of how we do what we do. It's in 4-hour roundtables. I have one guy that comes in and his phone is in his car. And he has openly said, the reason it's in my car is I'm actually not disciplined enough not to go to it, and I need to be, even when we have a 15-minute break, he says, I don't even, that 15-minute break, I want to build relationships with you. I don't want to sit there and spend 15 minutes absent while present, right? I mean, we have not even a generation, by the way, multiple generations of people now alone in a crowd. So he says, well, I'm with you 12 once a month for 4 hours, and the 15 minutes, I don't want that to be that. I'm going to be here the whole time, and I'm actually not good enough. You know, it's not how he's so righteous. He says, I'm so unrighteous, it's in my car. We've had some dialogues. I'm going to play this at all my meetings, so it'll be interesting to get the dialogue around that. But we're forever in them, right? I actually have thought about going to a flip phone just as an experiment. Now he might not be by choice. I don't know. He just ducked out. He had an iPhone secretly in the other room. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm actually thinking that would be an interesting experiment. I think I'll survive, right? You know, I mean, a lot of mine is relational, so I actually probably think I'll survive even more. And since I'm not on social media, I know it won't be as bad a withdrawal for me, so as it might be. But I do like things. I look at it all the time, and I check out my screen time and see how I'm doing. So a couple of examples that I've seen. I'm just going to share some things now. I wanted to kind of hear from you for the first hour or so. I've got one exercise we're going to do here in a couple of minutes, but just give you a few things for what it's worth, right? This is just one person's view as I've gone through a few extra years. As an employer, things about dress. I already told you an example. I hired somebody internally based on dress, right? Everyone, you know, I've been blessed that everybody dresses appropriately, but the point was somebody just took an extra. One guy, I will tell you, I had offices all over the world, and sometimes we would buy companies, and I didn't know everybody all the time right away. And so one guy had never met me before. I was in our Florida location, which by default is even more casual because it's like 90 blazing degrees all the time, right? So in Florida, it's even more casual. In fact, most of the engineers and stuff wear polo shirts and shorts, and I actually wear polo shirts or wear slacks usually. So it's just casual because it's so hot, right? Well, he flew in, he was making a presentation to me, and he came in with a shirt and tie. I was going to do it today, but since I was here all day, I didn't do it. He had a jacket and tie on. I'm like, whoa, jacket and tie. Like, that was way out of overdressed. And he said to me, he goes, yeah, and he was very respectful. He goes, yes, sir, but the difference between me and you at the moment, he goes, in 2 moves, I can be dressed just like that. And he took off his jacket and he took off his tie. He said, I can be dressed just like you. And I loved it. I said, yeah, you're right. In 2 moves, he was dressed just like me. He took his jacket off and tie, and he's casual, you know, business casual. But I couldn't put on a tie and jacket real quick, so it just showed me that he thought about, you know, his options, and he knew he could be. He just took it seriously. Showing up. I know that sounds crazy, but I think this is like the rent. Like I got the thing from my landlord. Why would somebody send me a gift for paying rent? No, it's because maybe the previous 5 tenants didn't. You know, so I will tell you, as an employer, I do appreciate it. Attitude, everybody's got a different perspective on attitude. This is my one thing. So if you ever come work for me, I think I can fix a lot of things. I can train you to do marketing, train you to do this. I will invest in you all day long. But if you don't have a good attitude, I've decided God did not create me to help you with your attitude, unless you were a child of mine. Then I have a responsibility. But beyond that, I just said that's not my thing. I can't. Now, I think there are some people, but I've just not felt called to be that person. So you just don't know. But give me somebody who was a good one, I can do anything, right, with them. I love it. Work ethic, I call it the 5 and 5, right? Everybody leaves 5 minutes early and comes 5 minutes late. How about be the one that comes always 5 minutes early and always leaves 5 minutes late? There's no magic to it, right? But I used to tell some guys who would come into me that, you know, that I developed some relationships, and they would just say, hey, can I make more money? I said, yeah, I hate to tell you this, but it's about 10% difference between somebody who in 5 years will double what they make and not, and it's the one that works 4 extra hours, not present 4 extra hours, but actually just puts in an extra 4 hours a week. And I know, I hate to say it's that little, but most people that are putting in 40 are putting in 36, and the guy that's putting in 44 is probably putting in really good 44. And I said, those are the ones that seem to be. It's not a lot difference. And I do believe it works both ways, because you can be a really stinky employer. And so I think we need to be a good employer. And I invest in trying to make us better in that area. As a mentee or a prospect, preparation, right? When somebody comes in and they haven't done any preparation, you know, that shows. Location consideration, right? Like, there are certain people that when I meet with them, I'm really fortunate to meet with them. There's a guy that I'm in a Bible study that I've just been privileged to be a part of that meets Friday mornings. This guy is, you know, he doesn't think he's any great shakes, but he definitely has got wisdom. He's about 20 years my senior, and we're going to get together. I'm making sure wherever we're getting together is on, you know, is in a couple miles of his house, right? I'm going to make it convenient for him to spend time with me. I don't think he cares, quite frankly. It's not important, but I want to make sure. Thank you. Whoever said thank you, I forget who said, why don't we just add thank you to us, right? Hey, we've lost that, right? Where's the loss of that? Respect of time. Part of that is preparation. Look, if you need 20 minutes with me, take 20 minutes with me. If you need an hour, take an hour. But if you need 20, don't take an hour, right? And so sometimes preparation can have a lot to do with that, because it's not about, by the way, the guy that I'm meeting with on March 6th, it is 20 minutes. So, you know, take what you need. Appreciate the investment, pursue them, make it easy for them to invest in you, right? Again, I will tell you, for us in our ministry, a lot of people that invest in others, and they typically are investing in people younger, really actually, quite frankly, don't think they're that big a deal, right? So they're actually pretty sincere in that sense. But why not take advantage of that and just pursue them as they are, because at least they're taking the time to do that. In general, this is just the life, eye contact, body language. These things speak volumes, right? You all have pretty good body language. It's open, and you're kind of in that, you know, sort of posture. Nobody's falling asleep. I realized it's 5 o'clock on a Friday. I could have had that. You know, body language. My nephew's a Marine. It's back to the cell phone. So when he had the Marine Corps graduation, I just said, man, that's amazing. So he graduated from Marine Corps. His life was not his own for 12 weeks, right? So he gets freedom. He gets to go out to dinner with his family. So we were there for his graduation. We go out to dinner. In addition to like bopping around the Marine graduation, every Marine that had graduated was just super respectful. Yeah, yes, sir. They don't even know us. Like, they bumped into you, like, oh, sorry, ma'am, sorry, sir, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am. I was like, oh, man, I love this, right? It's just not that it was to do with us, but I just loved this level of respect. So we're at a restaurant, not on the base anymore. He's at the restaurant. My sister-in-law, so his mother, gets a phone call for somebody to congratulate them. And Derek says, no. He stepped away. He said, what? He says, well, we are not allowed to have a cell phone out in public. It's a sign of disrespect in people's private, you know, people if you publicly talk on a cell phone in a restaurant. And he's in uniform, and he said, it's just disrespectful to talk in a restaurant on a phone. So if you do that, maybe you decide not to do that this week. So it was just funny, because, I mean, he was like, probably got beat, you know, for doing it or something. But they really had drilled into him that that's just disrespectful to other people to be on a phone in a public place. Not necessarily out on a street corner, but in a restaurant. I can get that. Please don't do it on a speakerphone. That person is just should be shot. No, okay. No expectation of return. And then I have to tell this. I'm going to tell them I've told this story, the seat on the bus story, right? Because, you know, we've lost even that, right? Everybody here walked in, so I got to see you walk in because I have this analogy, and I want to say it might not be true in some room, but you all walked in, right? So you're all capable of giving up your seat to somebody, right? And that's the person you don't even know. Somebody made comments about people you don't even know, right? You've kind of even lost that, right? So this guy, Cody, there's that point in your life when you're the guy that gives up your seat for somebody else, but at some point somebody gives it up for you. So this happened last year. I'm at an event, and I walked into a room, and there was no more chairs left. And this young man who I've known since he was probably 5, I've known his father for years, we're contemporaries, he stood up and he said, here, Mr. Holly, take my seat. And I'm like, oh. He's like, what? He says, Cody, you are now the first person that gave up a seat for me, and I think I've crossed over into old. Because I always used to give my seat up for somebody, and you've now given up. And so you have that. But you know what? I took it. Because it was just how his father raised him. And he said, if there's somebody in that room that's older than you, I'm not incapable of standing. Man, that's cool, right? And then in life, You know, I'm a big fan. You know, there's certain ways to do mission work and not, but one thing is how mission work can work on you. You don't have to go overseas to do it. But probably almost everyone in this room, I think everybody in this room, has more than one pair of shoes. You walked in here, you see me, you hear me, you didn't worry about what you were going to eat today. You might not have liked it, but you didn't worry about it. You were warm last night. You can wake up every day with 3 things that you can appreciate. And I think it was you were saying something. There's just some things that are just you can appreciate that we just forget to appreciate, right? I told you my dad's story with food. I appreciate taste buds. There's a lot of the world that's not true, right? And so sometimes it's good to see that, not to be excited about that, but to not forget what we have. So, and then some practical things. People you never met that came before you. You might be in some situation that somebody did something to make whatever that is possible for you. I mean, that would be a crazy thing to get a thank you from somebody that came before you, you never met. It could be an organization you're a part of or something like that, but they're no longer around. Can you imagine what that would be? I noticed handwritten notes, timeliness of people when we meet. I get that people get late and stuff like that, but I'm in the one marriage in the world where both of us don't like to be late, right? The joke is there's always one, they're opposites, right? Maggie and I both don't like to be late, which is unfortunate for the kids, but you know, we are the same that way. Now, her on-ramp is different than mine. I like I'm ready 10 to 15 minutes early, Maggie about 30 seconds before we're ready to leave, but both of us don't like being late. Respect their schedule, their location, prepare to do the homework. You know, there's nothing wrong with Mr., Miss, Sir, Ma'am. I got called Sir, Mr. Holly. At some point I released it with you guys coming in. I said, I got to just release it and say it's okay to call me Mr. Holly, because I sometimes when I get, you guys are very respectful when you come in as apprentices and things like that, and I find my name's Dave, and then finally I say, you know, it's okay. I appreciate the respect, and so I take it. I told you about dress, language, but you have no idea who you're dealing with, right? And I had a guy in an interview, dropped some colorful language, and I was like, all right, I just noted it, right? Because one of the things we talked about, I was hiring product managers. This is not when I was an administrator. I was hiring product managers. But one of the things I talk about product managers, you really have to understand who you're dealing with, because you don't know. You know, we were selling to people that some didn't graduate high school and some were PhDs, and so not understanding that person. And so he clearly didn't spend any time to understand whether that was a good thing for me or bad. It wasn't actually even important if I cared or not. It was the fact that he didn't actually take some time to figure that out. So it could feel cool until it's not cool, right? And you will never know, by the way, because that guy that didn't get hired never knew that that's the reason he didn't get hired. I think now I'd probably go tell him, because as you get older, you say, how many tell you why he didn't get hired? But then we just sent him a thank you note and off their way. This was that mentor somewhere. Yeah, this was a mentor of mine early in my career. He was a VP of sales. He was not my boss, but he really poured into me. On his birthday, I sent him birthdays. I have any birthday I learn. I just learned one of my pastor's birthdays. I quickly put it down on my calendar. So when I have those, my calendar is filled with birthdays. And I just use that as a trigger, right? It's a system, I get it, but I use that as a trigger, and then I just send a quick happy birthday to people. So I probably got 200 on my calendar now. It takes a minute, but it's funny how people just love it, right? You send them something on their birthday. Ask great questions, interest in others. We're talking about timeliness, communications, and then, I don't know how it is here, but I love this speech. So Dr. Nyquist was the president of Moody Bible when my son was a freshman. He's not the president now, but he gave a speech to all the incoming students. And in Moody Bible, when you go to Moody Bible, you get there on scholarship only, so there's not tuition. And that scholarship money is provided on the backs of somebody, right? It doesn't just magically appear, because it does cost money to go. And he said that. He had them all stand up, and he was giving them a charge. And he said, you're here today, you have taken a slot. There's only so many slots, you've taken a slot. Now, you don't have to feel bad about taking that slot. He took that slot from somebody else, and he was kind of setting that table. He said, and it's okay. You should be, proud of earning that slot. However, you took somebody else's slot, and it is on the backs of somebody else. Now go steward it well, because somebody did something to provide that for you. So when you have opportunities like that, I loved how he kind of gave people a charge to kind of steward it well. So in closing, we've got a few minutes left. It's not a few minutes to leave early. What I'm going to ask you to do is, thankfully, have a bunch of thank you notes. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and don't care who it is. Could be your mom, could be me. No, just kidding. Don't sound like me. But I want you to just write a thank you note. I'm going to do two. I brought the thank you note. Mine has an H on the back since I'm a Holly, so I brought my own thank you card. And I'm actually going to write the one to my boss, Bill, my first manager, Bill. But write a thank you note. You got 10 or 15 minutes. Doesn't even have to be long. Doesn't even have to be poetic, right? But somebody you can send or give one to, and we'll put feet to what we did. But before I do that, questions on anything. Won't make you stay any longer if you ask a question, so it's okay.
What type of appreciation do you appreciate most?
Me personally? Yeah, so I like notes. I mean, handwritten note, I'm still reeling from the handwritten note. And I will tell you, I never thought about somebody would put my name up on something. That's not my thing, because I'm not on social media, so don't make a big deal of it. But the fact that he did it was kind of sweet. I said, Zach, that was really sweet. I don't know that anybody saw it, but it didn't matter. It's the fact that he thought about it. So to me, thoughtful. That's why I circled some of those ones that are gone on this list. But I thought the ones that took some thought. If you're going to make something for somebody, you actually have to know them well enough. If you're going to, gosh, I wish I remember what you guys had on there. There's some things that made you have to understand something else about them. Those kind of things to me we got something out of our home. I'll give you one. This one was interesting because I did get something. I got a gift at my home. What got the meeting with this guy was a guy that sent a gift to our home that runs a company. And if I said the name, you'd know it. It's a well-known company, big company. He's a member in one of our things. He came to my house 2 weeks ago. And there's no date 2 weeks ago. Like, there's nothing, right? It's not like Christmas or anything. It's just like it was a date. And this box shows up. And it's a beautiful gift. Really more for my wife than me, right? Because it was more interesting for her. She's unwrapping it, and she's just going crazy, right? And then in there was a handwritten note to me. And so what tripped Maggie's trigger was the gift. What tripped my trigger was the note. The gift was absolutely sweet, but it wouldn't, And interesting enough, it wasn't the gift per se, it was the gift that was given and why he gave it. And the fact that her husband was doing something that would make somebody show appreciation that way was more what was important to her. And then on top of it, it was also engraved, like you just saw this. My daughter called my son, and they started having an argument over who got it when we died. And I told him that whole story. I said, Scott, this was crazy. I said, and then my son and my daughter were arguing, and my son was saying, well, I got the name Holly, and my daughter's like, yeah, but I won't have it, so I should have something that has it on it. And it had all this great rationale. So it created all this excitement. And again, to me, what it was just completely out of character. I would have been completely done with the thank you note. It's just different. But the thoughtfulness, really, I have to say, elevated to a new level for me. So take a few minutes. They are thank you notes here. You had to come up and grab it because I think she tried to organize it so they have an envelope. Because I really do want you to send it. Yeah. No, that you're going to have to do on your own. Or maybe Andy might have stamps.
Or did anybody end up getting it? I'll take the pen from it and then you guys can have the rest. No, it's any pen.
No, it has to be one of their pens.
Really?
Yeah. So if you're going to take the pen, you might as well take the book.
Yeah, you can get those at Staples or Amazon. Those pens are available anywhere.
Because I'll just throw in your hand.
No, I think Elise wanted it.
Elise, did you want this? No, like originally I don't ever use this.
You can't just take everything. You have to close this already.
If you want to update, I have to use this information. I would use something like this every day. I'd go through those books like nothing.
Yeah, they can actually scan them all.
Nice.
Put them into
Who did you give it to?
someone over here, and then they pass it around until
I have an extra pen. If you kept the pen, I can give that a pen.
I'll take the pen. That pen is cool.
All right, just a simple note.
And the stylus.
I encourage you to take this. You probably each have 50 people, hopefully, after today that you could have written one to.
Somebody to show gratitude or something.
Why are you singing that song again?
Because
Yes.
Thank you.
You can have a guess.
Yeah.
Is it legal to go and stick this in the person's mailbox if you know where they live?
So if it's not,
Okay.
cut that part of the tape.
Wait, are we still recording?
Huh? I don't know.
Yeah, we should probably, you wanna stop
Yeah,
there?
you can stop. Yeah, I'm not gonna say
I have to
anything.
record
Yeah,
it.